Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those on the Pacific Coast. And welcome to What Finance Execs Need to Know About Cloud Management Platforms, a webcast and a panel discussion from the Controllers Council. My name is Neil Brown, the Executive Director of the Controllers Council, and I'll be your moderator today. And I'd like to go over our agenda for our webcast today. I'm going to introduce you to our esteemed panelists, and then the panelists will share insights and with a short presentation on cloud management platforms. And we'll also have a polling question in there pretty early on, ask you about your use of cloud management platforms. And then after the presentation, I will, as moderator, I will ask some specific questions to each of our panelists, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So I invite you to ask questions early and often on your GoToWebinar control panel, as we will only be able to get to maybe the earlier questions. So, and then we'll close out with some information on Controllers Council, along with some save the dates for some upcoming webcasts and announcements. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Sam Petras, Controller of VAST IT Services, and his associate, Troy Schildan, who is Enterprise Cloud Architect for VAST as well. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Neil.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sam.
Great. Well, thank you, Neil, and thank you to the Controllers Council for inviting us to speak. Thank you to the participants for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend the webinar. We hope you find it informational and valuable. As Neil mentioned, I'm going to kick things off kind of talking about cloud cost management from a controller's perspective. And I feel like I'm in a unique position of being a controller from a company that provides cloud management and cloud cost optimization solutions. And then we'll have Troy dive into more of the technical aspects of the options that are available for you for custom reporting versus native tools. So as we look at the first slide here, actually, we were going to look at inserting a slide about the history of IT and kind of looking at the trends over the years and seeing like where we've come and how we've grown and how it's changed and how we've gotten to where we are today with organizations moving to the cloud. And really, I guess the main point I wanted to make from the slide is that the only constant in IT is change, and it's up to us to act accordingly. So I think that's a good segue as we take a look at, what are our roles in cloud technology as financial professionals. Looking at the first bullet point there, controllers and CFOs roles have been evolving in technology. Where it started with just spend participation to technology selection, and in some companies there's even technology supervision. And this was covered back in November when the Controllers Council put together a study on changing roles and responsibilities, but I felt it was important to include during this discussion. In that study, they surveyed more than 300 controllers, CFOs, related executives, professionals in accounting and corporate finance, focused primarily on the U.S., all different sizes of companies and geographies. And some of the biggest takeaways for me as it relates to our discussion today is that nearly everyone is taking on more work, especially with the impact of COVID and working remote. We're seeing finance leaders are turning to technology to make their life easier. I found an interesting stat that 63% of financial professionals surveyed use cloud-based solutions. Now, there's a lot of other great information in the report. If you haven't read it already, I highly recommend reaching out to Neil to obtain a copy. So as we take a look at the next bullet point, it's centered around communication. It is our job to communicate the financial findings in a way our senior management and C-level executives can understand. This includes becoming smart and knowledgeable on the cloud tools available to manage our environments. We don't have to be tech experts, but we need to have a solid understanding of the reporting capabilities. Last point here I wanted to touch on is really focused around our involvement in budgeting and the evolution of the budgeting process. In the past, departments would put in their request of details of what they need to support their environments. We then would in turn work with the departments to finalize the numbers and the timing of the spend. With cloud, this practice will continue. However, things can get out of control real quick if we're not monitoring the environments on a regular basis. Implementing reporting tools and collaborating with each of the departments will be critical to our success. As I mentioned earlier, the only constant in IT is change. Controllers will have to change and adapt to new job responsibilities as their companies progress on their journeys into the cloud. All right, so let's take a look at the next slide here. Where are you in your cloud journey? We take a look at just the makeup of the participants on this call, and there's over 200 participants in this webinar today, representing multiple industries, varying in company size and employee headcount. So we're going to be at different parts in our journey, and that stat I talked about earlier. There's 63% of those surveyed, we're doing something in the cloud. So that leads me to believe that there's a high number of organizations right now that fall into category number one, where you're focused on doing things the old traditional way on premise. You're probably having discussions about moving into the cloud, and there's others that have graduated from this point to really just dip their toe into the cloud pool, if you will. And then there's other organizations that have moved on from fully on-prem to taking a 50-50 approach, where now we're starting to get into moving critical applications, not just non-critical applications, up to the cloud. And then there's a segment of us that companies were born in the cloud. They have a full cloud approach. So the point I want to make here is that regardless of where you are in your cloud journey, cost optimization and operational efficiency will be key components to the financial success of your organization.